What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is time for another Friday Night Live. What is up? What is up? How is everybody? Whew, it's been a busy day. Another busy Friday. Goodness gracious. I feel like I've been nonstop all day. But here we are, Friday Night Live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody that is joining me through my podcast. If you guys didn't know, when I'm done with this, I take the recording, drop it onto my podcast. You can find Fluke Master Fishing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. So it's mainly for those guys who are on the road a lot and just want to listen to me for some reason. So this is good. But welcome, everybody. Welcome, Sergio and Elizabeth and Douglas. Old Beaton Banks, what's up, man? What's up? ALUD5561, welcome. Welcome. Oh, he's a member. Good. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. I need to figure out what all that is about. I haven't had a chance to slow down and look at it. I set it up and then craziness happened. So and the season started basically. So, goodness. Benjamin, did you go fishing today? No, I did not. We got a lot of stuff going on this weekend, but I started out in my garden this morning, and then I did a whole bunch of stuff around the yard, and then I've been working on my quad, getting it cleaned up and getting it ready for this weekend because we're going to go cut trees and brush and stuff at a new camp, church camp down in Covington on a piece of property that I actually grew up on. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, I'll take pictures and stuff, post them on Facebook. So what's up, Beaton Banks? How are you? Oh, I already said that. My bad. Hey, Black Bass Angler, what's going on, girl? What is up? Fishing Girl 94 is on here. That's cool. Simply Fishing. What's up, everybody? I'll let everybody jump on here real quick. So what do you guys think of the new background? I'm actually in a new office. So I moved upstairs. So I'm not in the basement anymore. My son moved home from welding school, and so he's going to be working here for a little while, finishing up, going through the the apprenticeship program with the union, with the pipe fitters union. So he's going to be living in the basement because I figured he's 21, he needs to have his own entrance and exit so he can come and go as he wants, and not have him stuck up here with the other kids. So I moved out of my office and moved up here. So pretty cool. Oh, goodness. Do I have any fig trees? No, I don't. I've been thinking about planting one, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law have two. I have a big one and a small one, and I can get all the figs I want from them. And they're only 35 minutes away from here. So good evening. Mailman down at EDC. What's going on, brother? Junior Taylor. Beaton Banks is here. Oh, he's in local 602. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So awesome. We'll get into the questions here in just a little bit. I'm letting everybody jump on before I get into the nitty gritty and all the business stuff. So Clay Jackson, what's going on, man? Nope, never fished the Chickamauga, whatever that is, river in Virginia. I need to get to Virginia. Old Snooky Rish has been asking me to fish for her for a couple of years and just have never gone east. And I got to get up there. So, oh goodness, Rattlestrap ADHD didn't make me forget to tune in this week. That's awesome, man. Man, a lot of you guys are part of the union. That's awesome. I'm okay with some unions. There's other unions I think are crooked as all get out. So, and there's probably some crooked people in any union, but just like government, there's a lot of crooked people in government too, way more than we need. Goodness, Jacob Zarita, thank you, man. Thanks for joining. By the way, that's as far as I go with politics. So we're not going to talk politics or religion on here. That's for sure. I'm an against-ocrat. I vote against the worst person. That's all I got to say. Mailman, he says, chilling, appreciate your info on the Ned rig. That's awesome, man. Good. I'm glad you got it. So, goodness. All right, here we go. Oh, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Okay, so first of all, the Knucklehead tournament's got 15 more days left in the last month. We've got 3 winners set so far, and the last winner comes up this month, and then we go to the championship, I think in October or November in Alabama. It looks like I raised enough money to put the team up in a nice Airbnb, which is good. And so I'm going to take that money, put it into an Airbnb, and try to get food and stuff in there, and that's about all the money we made. So first year, we'll see what happens next year, but I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. I was able to get 1 kayak donated from my sponsors, basically from my sponsors. But anyway, got 1 kayak donated. So I'll talk more about that later when I get down to it. It'll be probably next month or the month after. And then we'll go from there. My guide service is rocking and rolling. I had another guide trip this last Monday. $300 a day, dude. It's all it is. You just come here to Rome, Georgia, which is up in Northwest Georgia. And I take you out on a trophy lake from the 1st of the month through the 10th of the month. Are all only days that lake's open. So except for Sundays, any one of those days you can book. So you book through the Fishing Chaos app. So pretty easy. And that $300 discount, that $300 deal is only going to go for just a short amount of time. So you better jump on it. So, oh, Benjamin, you nuts. Let's see. This one's funny. Simply Fishing, learning to tie leaders tonight. Grr. Oh, dude, I've been there. I remember in my garage in Augusta learning the FG knot. I can't even count how many times I messed that thing up. And so, goodness. But there's plenty of good videos on how to tie it out there. Mine is not the best, but it's a decent one. So, let's see. Dang, a lot of you guys in the union. That's cool. Justin 540. Have you had a good Friday? I've had a good Friday. I'm just worn out, man. I got up at 6 this morning, got out in my garden for a couple of hours. The pole beans are coming in, so that's an added hour to the morning. So I have to get up extra early. They just starting to come in, so I didn't have to pick too many today. But come Monday of next week, I will be filling up buckets with them. So I do a lot of pole beans. Probably did more this year than I should have. But anyway, everything else is going good. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Make Elizabeth Z give up where she's catching all those monsters. Dude, I fished one day this week. Michael Musgrove will probably be on here later and tell me what day I fished because I fished with him. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. All day Tuesday, I caught 108.5 inches, and he caught 108.75 inches on Tuesday. It was an amazing day, and we caught some good ones in the morning, during the day, but the evening bite was unreal. I mean, those fish pulled right up on points and up on top of offshore structure, and it was Katie bar the door. It was amazing the size fish that we were catching. So, oh goodness, Elizabeth Z, she says, by the way, your video about June lures is spot on. Killed them on a Carolina rig with a Magnum trick worm. Thanks. That Magnum trick worm on a Carolina rig. Try a Senko. Seriously, put a Senko on there and see what happens. 5 or 6 or whatever the next size up. I think it is a 6-inch. The bigger Senkos are incredible on the Carolina rig, but I know they're expensive though. So, what would you do when bass short strike your square bill? History. When I was learning that kind of stuff on on when they're short striking, when they're following, what to do, I would normally switch to a more natural color or clearer color on a square bill, which is one option. What I'm going to do if they short strike, I always try to have, when I'm cranking, when I'm doing any kind of moving baits, I always try to have a follow-up bait ready to cast. It's usually a weightless worm, something that sinks slow or whatever else. And I would throw right back in there to where that bass bit and see if I can catch it. Cause it just let he's there. And then he wants to bite something. So I would do that, but then switch your crankbait to a more natural color or a color that's harder to see, like a clear, or move a little bit faster and a little bit more erratic. So let's see. Oh, I just zoomed in and I lost everything. Let's see. Rattlestaff, he's still talking about his leaders. He says, pretty sure I'm about 75 yards of leader line down learning the FG so far. Yes, sir. Yep, you go through a lot of braid and a lot of fluorocarbon. That's crazy. Oh, man. Basscast, the garden looks great. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Dennis Conley, I asked you last year what my 19-year-old newbie fisher, he caught nothing last year. First cast with a Carolina rig this year, a 4-pound bass. Woohoo! Now he thinks this should happen every time. That's great. That's awesome, man. Tell him congratulations. Goodness. Rattlestrap, what's going on, man? National Associated Letter Carriers. Huh. That's the name of the union. That's pretty cool. Any thought on the Newport Vessels electric kayak motors? Now, I've never used one, but I know Cody Henley really well, and he uses one. One thing he always touts is it's an amazing company with amazing customer service. That's one thing he always talks about, is how good they are with their customer service. Not everybody can be satisfied, that's for sure, but having good customer service is important. They're quiet. I haven't heard much about the new one that's supposed to be a really fast one, but they also take up a lot of power. So I know their smallest one is still a 24 volt. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but that's what I'm pretty sure that's right. And so their newest one, I'm not sure if it's a 24 or 36 volt. So anyway, so I haven't heard a lot of bad things about them, break-in or things like that, but I really haven't paid much attention to it. But I do know their customer service is good. So, do you personally see climate change as the years go by? A lot of records worldwide lately. I really hate to get into that. I think it's more political than it is scientifically based. Only because, and I'm only going to go this far into it because I hate talking politics. I know who signs the checks of most of the scientists in this country, and it is our government, and it is our government officials. And so you just follow the money, and that's all I got to say. And I have a little bit of personal history about that kind of stuff and things like that. So I have a little bit more to base it on than just, this is what I'm told. So there's certain things I know about how our government our government officials try to control certain things. Anyway, let's go back. Done with politics. Finally made my first Friday Night Live. I've been watching for years. Thanks, Cody. I appreciate it. Welcome, man. Welcome. Dakota Weiss, any tips on fishing a lake that doesn't have much deep water structure? Oh goodness. That's very broad. I'm thinking like Florida that doesn't have very much deep water anything, but there are people. Is there a bug crawling on me? There is. I got to fuss at my son. Anyway, we'll go into that later, but I got a little bug crawling on me. But the window's cracked right there. So anyway, so like Florida, I always look for like offshore brush and stuff like that people that put out. If it's got grass, I always am fishing the deepest grass that I can find, that kind of stuff. And grass creates, is cover, but it can also be fished similar to structure if it's offshore. Grass creates points. There's a deep side and there's a shallow side and things like that. So it's hard to get into because it's such a broad subject, but that's the basics of it. I'm always looking for the deepest possible place, especially in the summertime, where they would hang out. So Black Bass Angler, do you believe in red hooks? The only time I ever use a red hook, I talked about this last 2 weeks ago. is when I'm using a 100% clear bait and it is a reaction bait and the fish have got to come a long ways to hit it. So for instance, clear water, like what Clarks Hill used to be back when it had hydrilla, it was a super clear lake. The bass would come out of, 15, 20, 50 feet of water sometimes to hit your top water. You didn't want them to get a good look at it. It was a clear bait. Sometimes they were only 8 feet deep and there was a clear bait. So they would just see the splashing, but on their way up, that red front hook gives them a target. And so that hook is where I hooked 99.9% of the thousands of bass that I caught on a clear Super Spook Junior. So that's the only time I ever use a red hook, is when I need to use it as a target. Terry Davis says, I'm going to try to use big worms this summer. You will love it. Just if you think you're fishing too slow, slow your butt down. Fish slower, because it means that your mind isn't set right to fish super, super slow. Trust me on this. If you're on a really good offshore hard bottom, that's a piece of structure where it's a bottom change or whatever else. If you drag that worm really slow, literally counting pebbles on the bottom, you'll catch big bass. And it is amazing. You'll get so stuck on that bite where you feel that tungsten weight slam into the back of that fish's throat and set the hook. It's nuts. So Robert Webb, how about them Braves, man? I've been watching as much as I can. I just don't have the Braves channel. So I watch them when they come on YouTube TV. I don't watch a lot of TV anyway. So your videos suggest to use 7+ foot rods. I've started to get a few 7+ rods, medium, heavy, light. What conditions would a 6 foot or 6.6 rods work best? Most rods I started with in the 6 foot range. And you got to be fishing. You have to have been fishing for a while. And I say that because a lot of my older buddies started with 6 foot, 6.6 heavies and that kind of stuff. I use 6'5" or 6. I guess my frog rod is 6'5". That's my shortest rod, but my shorter rods are for accuracy and fishability. Was accuracy one, but the frog rod is because it's easier to walk a frog with a short rod than with a long rod, and so that's why I like a 6'5" heavy frog rod. They don't make them anymore, dadgummit. But you'll find that you'll get more leverage with a 7 foot rod, 7 foot plus rod, which you need to set hooks. The inside of bass's mouth is tough as leather sometimes, especially the very middle of the roof of the mouth. And so you got to have a little bit stiffer rod. You got to have a longer rod to get leverage. And you'll also find that that you can get a lot more distance with a lot less motion with your arms. So if you're fishing all day, you get less tired with the longer rods. And so, and you can take up a lot of slack with them. So that's kind of the advantage. I can go a little bit more into it, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. Rattlesnake, my local lake and pond about 8 miles away from me, finally got filled and restocked. Is there any pattern I should try or just trial and error? I don't know it depends on what they stocked them with, but I always try to go with a bluegill pattern for small lakes and small ponds to start with, and then venture out to shad patterns or other bait fish patterns. But I try to go find the bluegill, hit shallow, go in the cover and that kind of stuff. So Justin 540 says, I caught me a 4-pound bass with a 6-inch green pumpkin lizard using a Texas rig at this river I fish a lot in Mount Crawford, Virginia. Was an adrenaline rush, man. That's awesome. I was excited as could be. I bet you were. That's awesome, brother. Awesome. Scott Lewis just moved to Kentucky. Will be fishing Lake Cumberland. Any pointers for Highland reservoirs? Dude, that is my weakness. And I won a tournament on that one right there. I won that tournament on a Highland. Okay, fine. Point at it. There we go. On a Highland reservoir. And I was fishing super shallow because they were up spawning. And then in the summertime, I have been zeroed and I've been beat up by Highland reservoirs. But it's all offshore humps and current breaks and things like that. So if you get current pushed through there, you get around behind a point and fish those current breaks and things like that. So, but like I said, that is my weak point for sure. What do you do after a rain and the water gets muddy? If it's a thunderstorm that pops up through the middle of the night, the bass usually shut down until middle of the afternoon. At least that's my experience over the last many years. But when the water gets muddy, if you had a lot of rain over several days, the water gets muddy, those fish are going to push shallow into cover, and they're going to be as tight to that cover as they can be, and they're not going to be too willing to chase. So you got to hit them in the nose. So multiple casts at shallow cover that you can see: stumps, brush piles, dock posts, docks, things like that, and make multiple casts at the same target, because you literally are going to have to hit them in the nose. A bass is comfortable in the mud only if it can see something, only if it's up against something. So like a stick with its eye, right? I've seen them multiple times in like reeds and stuff with their eye right up against the reed, because that's all they can see, as muddy as it is. And they're super shallow. Their backs are out of the water almost, that kind of stuff. And so they'll get right up against shallow cover. So Trevor Spradley, are you ready for some Georgia football? Man, every day I check like recruiting reports and that kind of stuff. The 2024 class is unreal, but I haven't been following too much about the practices and summer practice and things like that. But I know it's going to be a good season. I can't wait. Go Dogs. Man, I'm so proud to be a Georgia Bulldog fan. Y'all know I've been wearing this hat for a lot of years. And to finally have them where I knew they could be if they just got the right coach and the right program going. So anyway, sorry, I'm new. Why does everyone hate on the shaky head? I don't know, man. I fished one this week. I love a shaky head. I don't know why people hate on it. I really don't. It makes no sense to me. So, Benjamin Ripple, this is funny. He says, I love red hooks because I love the Cincinnati Reds. Stupid. Oh, Andy Leonard, the stupid tube has been a good bait here lately. I need to make a video on the stupid tube. I started fishing it 2 or 3 years ago and then put it down. And I really need to pick it back up again because it's a great offshore bait. Just never pops in my head. So I really need to write that down and do that for sure. Who just donated $5? Ace Camper, what's going on, brother? Thanks for the $5 through Super Chat. It says, fishing knucklehead this month, my first tournament. Speedworms have got me 5th place so far. Thunderstorm shut them down today pretty good. It does, man. Those thunderstorms really shut them down. So I was fishing a 2-day tournament, a Saturday, Sunday tournament on my home lake year before last. And Saturday was awesome. I had 106, 108 inches and went home. And I was like, man, I'm going to win this thing tomorrow. So I went back I went home, went to bed, and in this freak thunderstorm, one cloud came through at midnight and just thunder and lightning and everything else. I went back, I fished and didn't get a bite until 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They were shut down. And that's what thunderstorms do. They just, if it's just rain, it's fine. As long as there's not a whole lot of lightning and thunder, they typically won't get freaked out. But man, they get freaked out. So, Bass Angler, she says, is there any advantage to changing the size of the blades on a bladed jig or color of the blades? The only advantage I think is let me tell you from my experience. So if I've got to slow roll something deep, a chatterbait deep, I love those big bladed chatterbaits. I grab a half ounce, I throw out, 15, 20 feet deep, and I've got to slow roll it. Those big bladed ones, they're so easy to and they make so much noise. And I'm 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm doing anyway, slow rolling, but I'm usually really shallow. So they're really good deep. I caught a 24.5 incher last year doing that. And then color, I think that the thing, let me tell you, the new Dirty Shad color that's got the gold blade, I've thrown that till my arm fell off and couldn't get bit, switched right back over to a chrome like I throw all the time and got bit. So sometimes gold works, sometimes silver works, and or chrome works, and I like to switch back between the two to see. Down in Florida, gold always works better because of golden shiners, I guess. But I try to have baits that have both colors, and even I'll take a gold one and I'll color it black sometimes and get a little bit of gold flash through it. Take a sharpie it just to tone it down a little bit and see if that works. So. But blade color does make a difference. I've seen it make a difference more times than not. So, what rod is good for chatterbaits under a budget? I'm currently using the Dobyns Kaden series. You think that's a good one? I'm going to look up Dobyns Kaden series. BYNS. And I love Dobyns, Gary Dobyns. He's a great dude. I don't want that. Thank you. So Dobyns Kaden runs $140, $180, but $150 on sale at Academy right now. So I'm sponsored by 13. So I'm going to tell you there's a new rod out that I just saw today on their website. It's the 7'2" medium, heavy, moderate meta rod that Gerald Swindle designed, and that's a chatterbait rod. 7'2", medium, heavy, moderate cranking rod or casting rod, but any medium, heavy, moderate that's got a little bit stiffer backbone is really good. But I don't know a whole lot about the Kaden series or the Dobyns stuff. I do know he makes great rods. He's one of the best rod designers in the country. So you can't go wrong with Dobyns, that's for sure. Benjamin, Georgia has the hardest schedule. Not this year, 2024 they do, but 2023 they do not have the hardest schedule, not even close. So we'll see if they can three-peat it. So, all right. Let's see. How do you fish at 13 Fishing Ninja Worm and a joystick in heavy weeds? I use and same thing with like a swimming worm, like a Rage Cutter worm or a Speed worm or that kind of a worm. I put a no heavier than a 1/4 ounce weight, usually an 1/8 ounce, but no heavier than a 1/4 ounce weight on the front of it. Texas rig it. I peg it. And I work it through and over the grass. I don't try to I don't want anything to bury in the grass. So I'm going to cast it out and I'm going to slowly swim it, trying to bump into all the grass I can. If I find a hole, I let it fall down in that hole and then I swim it out of it and that kind of stuff. That's only way I fish it in the weeds. And the best weeds are ones that have a lot of holes. Those are ambush spots for the bass. They'll get down in those holes and they'll ambush stuff as it swims by. So, Simply Fishing. He says you're what? He's talking about football again. You're welcome. You are welcome for the coach. Roll Tide. I'm not going to deny that, dude. He is definitely a product of Saban. So, Saban's the best coach has ever been for right now. Let's see. Chipper Dow, he said I just moved to Georgia and got a kayak. I have a lot of success fishing on clear sunny days, but overcast days when the fishing should be better, I struggle. Any tips? So on overcast days, so on sunny days, fish congregate, and they congregate in shade, they congregate deep, but they tend to be more predictable, especially for those of us who fish offshore. They're a lot more predictable where they're going to be. Overcast, they scatter. And so when it's sunny, I like to drag things. I like to, work setting my baits real slow through overstructure and through cover. But on cloudy days, it's more, I'm going to throw moving baits. I'm going to throw a chatterbait, I'm a spinner bait, crankbait, anything that's a moving bait, and try to bump it and run it into everything that I can and just keep covering water until I get bit. And then I slow down and I cover the whole area because that bass is not going to be by himself. He's going to be scattered, but he's not going to be by himself in that area. So I'm going to cover that whole general area and see if I can't duplicate catching, do the same thing I did to catch that bass. So Chris Castile, hey Gene, I run a small barbecue catering business. That's cool, brother. I love barbecue. Love barbecue. My wife and I had a little argument the other day. So she grew up on hash, and if y'all don't know what hash is, it's basically you barbecue potatoes with some barbecue sauce and that kind of stuff. Whatever. It's just. So I told her, I said, look, I make dang good barbecue. I smoke my butts for 10 to 12 hours. I take them nice and low and slow, and I have a really good quality rub, and I do everything I need. Hash is for crappy barbecue. Stop making hash out of my barbecue. If you want to make hash, get yourself a crock pot, drop one of those Boston butts in there, throw a little liquid smoke in there, turn that sucker on, and in 10 hours, pull it out and make all the dang hash you want to make. But don't make it with my smoked pork butts. So anyway, I could go on about that forever. And then you ask, do you prefer pellet or stick burner for smoking? Because of my schedule, I love pellet. To me, I don't notice a difference in the flavor. I love pellet because I can set it at 9:00 at night. I can wake up early in the morning and I can check it and wrap it and throw it back on there. So that's what I love about it. I don't have to worry about heat, and I don't have to stay up all night cooking it. So Michael Moon, thanks for the $10. He says, when are you coming back to trade day again? Also, if you do, and you have some green pumpkin shiro worms, swim baits, I want some. Okay. I don't know when. That's up to the boss lady. So, oh goodness. All right, let's speed up a little bit. Is a chatterbait weedless? Yes. For the most part, it's grassless. It does not come through wood very well. Does not come through brush piles at all. But because of the angle of that blade, if you hold your rod tip up, instead of like when I'm fishing no grass at all, I've got my rod tip down. But when I'm on grass, hold that rod tip up and reel over top of that grass. It'll come through. If it gets hung up, you just do 2 pops on a slack line and it comes right out. So Alex says, smallies don't mind weather. My all-time favorite species to target, fresh or salt. Come to the Northeast and do an episode of smallmouth fishing. Man, I love smallmouth fishing. My biggest one came out of Lake Erie, 7.9 pounds. And so I love smallmouth fishing for sure. And you're right. Well, they spend a lot of time deep, and they're not as sensitive as a largemouth is for sure. Kraken Facer says, just started kayak tournaments after your video. Good stuff, and I'm going to get you on one of these days. That's awesome, man. Let's see. Alan Fowler, I'm not even going to say that. That's hilarious, though. You guys are all into football right now. Let's see. All right. Robert Webb says, I'm tempted to get a bona fide SS127. Is it possible to have a quick release for a trolling motor? Living the bachelor life, and I have it in my apartment. It's one of the few stable kayaks I think I can move inside alone. Whew. It's a heavy kayak. It is for sure. All of my XI3s on the front are on the Motor Guide quick release, so they come off pretty easy. When I'm trailering them, typically I don't take them off just because I haven't had one fall off yet. You guys know I do crazy things to see if I can break stuff. So I've always tried to see whether that thing will rip off the boat or not when I'm trailering. But so far so good. But anyway, so but yeah, they make quick release, at least for the bow mounted kayaks. The stern mounted kayaks, most of them do too, because that's just a lot of vibration to have on your motor. So you typically want to take them, especially off the back of your trailer. You want to take them off. So Hey, Thomas, that's a good response to Scott. So Scott asked earlier about the Highland reservoirs. The Bass Geek fishes Highland reservoirs all the time, and he's a friend of mine, and he's really, really knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. So he can be a goober, but that's mainly just me and him joking around. So, dang, nobody has mentioned my backdrop. What are you talking about, people? Oh, so I had the bricks for like 6 years and maybe 7. But now I'm upstairs and I got a whole new room and I had to redo my backdrop. But anyway, I don't know why I'm giving you guys a hard time, but I'm like, nobody has mentioned it. It's driving me nuts. It's like when you hit a home run in baseball, it's your first home run and as a rookie and you come around the thing and your whole entire team disappears and they're sitting in they run out of the dugout and get away from you. So anyway, um, I know you've been at Anderson, South Carolina. Any tips for Hartwell? I struggle there. Caught 2 today. Decent but tough. I hate that lake. I hate Hartwell. Hate it. Man, if you got to catch fish on Hartwell, though, especially spotted bass, and it's a blueback herring lake, offshore humps and points on offshore humps are usually really, really good for me. And I'll throw a shaky head in a Ned rig till the sun goes down, my arm falls off. So definitely worth it. Anyway, never catch a big bass again, or only be able to catch them on a wacky rig. Rattlestrap. Now you know me. You've been doing this long enough. You know I hate a wacky rig. I'd rather never catch another big bass again than fish a wacky rig every day. Of course, the original wacky rig was you just took an offset worm hook. You pulled your trick worm off of the hook and turned it sideways and put the hook through the middle of it and jerked it around the shallows. So let's see. I'm going to ignore that one. What kayak would you suggest for a pedal and trolling motor combo? I have a 12-foot Old Town Sportsman and have found having the trolling motor can be limiting. Dude, I don't know. My client the other day had what did he have? I know he had a pedal drive and he had the XI3 on the front. I think he had crap. I know a lot of people do it in a Hobie, but I think he had a native, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had a native. But I don't know, man. I really don't. I haven't really. I don't do pedal drives because of my hip. I hurt my hip in the Army, and it just flares up whenever I get on a pedal drive. So, Chris Stone, nice backdrop, Gene. I appreciate it, man. Oh goodness. Here's one. Michael Moon, of course. He says it's because everything is straight and none of the pictures are crooked. You know why? Because my wife hung them. That's why. I really wanted a couple of them to be crooked. So this one you haven't seen in a while. It's been out in my barn. So that's a steel sign that was made by Basquatch Hunter, if you guys know who I'm talking about. But back when he worked with steel, he made that for me. So it's heavy as a son of a gun, though. But yeah, dude, I would have loved to seen a video of the plasma cutter cutting that out. So, Black Bass Angler, if you were bank fishing and could only take 2 medium tackle trays in a small backpack, what are you bringing? If I was bank fishing, I'm gonna answer this twice, girl. Let me tell you something. First, if you give me 2 trays, it's gonna be my terminal tackle box, so hooks and sinkers mainly. And the other one is, I don't even know what the other one's gonna be. The other one's gonna be like spinner baits. And what else would I throw in from bank fishing? That's it. Really, spinner baits and maybe a crankbait, but mostly spinner baits. But typically, when I'm bait fishing, I have my tackle boxes in my pocket. I have a pack of TRD or of Z-Man shrooms jig heads, 10th ounce Ned rig, and I have a pack um, finesse TRD worms in the deal color, and that's it. Every time I'm bait fishing, that's all I throw. Yeah, I'll throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, and slowly reel it back in just off the bottom. And I catch the snot out of fish when I'm bait fishing doing that. So, but that's just me. What should you be looking for when pre-fishing for tournaments? That's a good one. Let me think about it. First thing I look for when I'm pre-fishing is I want to see the water clarity. When I get to a boat ramp, whether it's the first boat ramp or the third or fourth boat ramp that I've hit in the first day, I'm going to look at the water clarity, and it's going to tell me what color lures to use. Either natural or bright, clear water or clearer water, all the way to muddy water, that kind of stuff. I consider the time of the year, so the seasonal patterns, the research that I've done, the map research I've done, and that kind of stuff. Okay, and then other things I'm looking for as I'm going around the lake is I'm looking for life. I want to see bait fish. I want to see ticks on the water. I want to see birds on the bank. Anything that lets me know that there's fish in the area. Okay, if that makes sense. Where there's life, there's going to be bait, and where there's bait, there's going to be bass. So that's kind of what I look for. So, then I just go fishing, really. So, what's my all-time favorite technique to catch bass? Oh, dude. I am like a kid at Christmas when I'm catching bass on a jig, on a football jig or some type of dragon jig. I absolutely love catching bass on a jig. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 months is just flipping jigs and dragging jigs across cover and structure. And it's also really good with live scope. You see a bass, flip in front of him, let it fall down next to him, watch him come down and eat it. So, Reggie Hill, that's a good question. He says, what are worms and muddy water doesn't mix, does it? The only time I say it doesn't is if you're flipping that worm as close to shallow cover as you can. So I won a tournament on Lake Oconee years ago. Actually, I've won 2 tournaments on Lake Oconee doing this. But you get a lot of rain. 2, 3, and 4 days before the tournament, so it's super muddy, and that lake's always pretty muddy anyway. But I caught them on a shaky head, a black shaky head trick worm, and the trick was I found out that they were hanging out on outside corner dock posts, and these are wooden dock posts go all the way to the bottom. And I had to get my bait within an inch of that dock post. And if I got it within an inch of that dock post, one time out of 25 casts, I would run it right past that fish's nose, and that bait would never get to the bottom because that fish would literally just go and suck it in. And I think I caught 15, 20 fish in one tournament and 20 or 30 the other tournament. But with worms and any kind of jigs and stuff that don't make a lot of noise, you just got to get really, really close to where they're at, to the cover. You got to get it in front of their nose. So good question, man. It's probably one of the best questions we've had in a while. Not making fun of all y'all, but that was a good question. What are some good small spinnerbait trailers? I bought some 1/4 ounce and 3/16 ounce Blue Gal spinnerbaits, and I don't have any paddle tails or flukes small enough for them, or I don't think anyway. So rattle strap, go and find whatever tackle shop carries Zoom, and pick up just some Zoom split tail trailers and use those. You just, you can cut a little bit of the front of them off and make it fit, but Zoom split tail trailers are pretty much all I use for spinnerbaits these days. But they're just a really good trailer for those small ones. So favorite Texas rig bait this time of the year, a Zumo Monster, 13 Fishing, whatever their big worm is. They don't make it anymore. I don't think they're selling it. You can find all their plastics on clearance right now because they're changing things up this year. So the Big Swarm is what the name of that one is. So Mike McKinstry, speaking of the devil, he said, "Hey, I like the steel sign behind you. It's the first time I've seen it there." So I just changed my office. Mike. I moved. Mike's the one that made this for you guys that don't know. Mike McKinstry. And so, but yeah, I just changed offices and moved upstairs, and as I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to put on the wall, I said, and I've been wanting to switch those two right there, that one and this one, for a while. I just haven't done it. And so this was a perfect opportunity. So I figured I'd put it front and center or left of center so everybody could see it. Cause I love that thing, dude. I really appreciate it. Well, again, thank you so much for it. I know I've had it for a while and I just love it. So that's awesome. How cool he jumped in. Let's see. Rattlestrap says, personally, my favorite technique is swim bait fishing, overcast and light rain when they hammer the bait fish is my happy place. Yeah, dude, I really want to get into big swim baits. I really do. I just think it's going to be too tough to try to keep up with what I need to be, what the videos I want to be producing and getting to know something as detailed as swim bait. So Tyson Lee says you had a good fishing partner that tournament. Tyson, I had a good net man, bro. You were a great net man. Telling you, no, he caught fish too. That's my brother-in-law. That's my wife's little brother. Anyway, Ryan Marsh, have you ever fished Lake Champlain? And if so, what's your best memory? I have not. That's one of the few that I have not fished up in the Great Lakes. So fishing with Gramps, what's going on, brother? Did 13 Fishing discontinue the Jabberjaw? Not that I know of. I haven't had any conversation with them about what's coming up and what their changes are. They do change a lot, and they do let the retailers know well ahead of time so the retailers can get rid of their stock of whatever's not going to be available anymore. So, to let them know that they can put stuff on sale and that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure about the Jabberjaw, though. What's up, Fluke? Are you using a longer or short rod for frog fishing? I use a 6'5" heavy for most of my frog fishing, but when I'm fishing mats, real heavy mats, I go to a 7'6" heavy frog rod. That's the only thing. I really love a short rod when I'm covering a lot of water, skipping docks and that kind of stuff for the frog. Just a lot more accurate, and it's a lot easier to walk a frog than with a short rod. So, man, my heartburn is killing me tonight. Ever fished Lake Norman in Denver, North Carolina? I haven't. I had the opportunity a few years ago, but weather canceled the event I was supposed to go to. So, you're welcome, Mike. He says it looks good. Thank you for displaying it proudly, dude. I will. It'll be there for a while too. It's gonna be there for a long, long time, man. So, let's see. Mike, since I was reading this next comment, but that thing right there, I wished I had a video of it, of the laser, of you cutting it out. That would have been awesome. I still think that if you were to get back into that and just videotaped yourself doing it, you'd make a killing on YouTube. People would watch the mess out of that, but the lighting would be tough, and the videoing would be tough. The editing wouldn't be, but the lighting and the video would be tough. So, Reggie says there's a lot of muddy water in the area I fish. You say when you go bank fishing, what are 2 techniques you use? Again, because I bank fish a lot, It's just the muddy water that gives me problems. So I would go to a black and blue jig with some type of a trailer that has a lot of kick to it, like a rage bug or a rage craw or anything that has, the claws really kick a lot. So that way you get that vibration. In a black and blue jig, you can flip around that shallow cover. Try to get it into places that other people can't cast to. None of this throw away out and try to drag it back in. You're flipping to what you can see. So a black and blue jig, put a little rattle on it if you want to. A couple of techniques is you flip it into that cover, you let it fall down, and if it hits the bottom without getting bit, count to 2 or 3 seconds. 1,000, 2, 1,000, and then just shake it just a little bit, because a lot of times a jig, you pass it, you get it to fall down past a bass, and the bass will nose down and it'll follow it, and it'll just stop just before it gets to it and just stare at it. And by that time, you've already counted your 2 seconds, and you shake it. And that jig, when you shake it, it just flares. It starts making a lot of motion, and that bass will thump it. That's one good technique. The other one is just flip it in there, hop it once, bring it back in, flip it back in, work your way around the stumps or around the brush or in the brush. But they're going to be in the thickest, biggest part of the brush is what they're going to do. So a good weedless jig is really good for that. What's your personal best bass to this day? It's 10 pounds, 12 ounces. I hope to break it one day. Goodness gracious. I'm not trying hard to do it. But I am dragging big worms and big jigs and that kind of stuff. But Matt Kruger, live is awesome. Love you, Gene. Local tournament tomorrow. I run it. Angler Addicts, Chenango County. Gene, you've influenced me a lot. I watched almost all your videos. I have 300 members now. That's awesome, man. Wow. I'm thinking about doing some tournaments, running a tournament series next year, but I don't know. That's a lot of work, dude. Definitely. I got to talk to some more people that have more experience in it than I do before I decide to do that. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. That's a good question. That says always great content, Friday night conversation. But what's your go-to snack out on the water? I like lately I've been eating like trail mix. We got a Food Lion down the road, and they have they've upped their game on the snacks. So they've got a trail mix that's their brand that's really, really good. And I usually grab 2 or 3 of those. So that's what it's been. That's what it's been lately. Well, what color worm is your favorite for deep water Carolina rigging? Plum. And that's funny because deep water, red is the first color to disappear as it gets deeper and deeper. It's actually plum in deep water is clear. I'm not clear. It's gray. Another really good deep water color, and it's hard to find because most people don't make it anymore, is the old school motor oil color. Really good for deep water, but usually plum or green pumpkin I'm throwing deep. Matt Cat, can you recommend any lakes or spots on the Gulf near Naples, Florida? Naples, Florida. I want to. Oh, what's the name of that? Oh, that's way too far south. I have never fished for bass that far south, man. I got a real good buddy that lives in Naples that we've been friends since he lived in Rhode Island, but I don't think he bass fishes there anymore. There's so many different little lakes and stuff around there, but I have no clue. I know they have a whole bunch of stuff listed on the fisheries department, the Florida Fisheries Department website for sure, but I've never fished that far south except for Okeechobee. So, and that's still well north of you. So, let's see. Southeast Georgia Bass Fishing says The video, he's talking about an Instagram video. The video of the garden was awesome. Ready to see those giant tomatoes. Me too, man. They're getting there. They're getting there. Those of you guys that don't know, my passion for my whole life has been gardening. I grew up doing it with my dad. I now have 100-foot by 100-foot garden area, and I plant about half of it a year. And I've got 38 Amish paste tomato plants growing. So I've probably got 300 tomatoes on them right now. They're all green right though, but it won't be long. So anyway, Matt Kruger, if you fish long cast in long areas of lilies, I do 8-foot ugly sticks. Cast a country mile, but be ready to battle into the lilies to get your fish. Dude, that's like hand-to-hand combat. I love it. Absolutely love catching them in those lily pads. So Hunter Nixon, is Rocky Mountain public? Yes, it is. It's called Rocky Mountain Public Fishing Area. So yes, it's public. Oh goodness, that the trophy lake that I guide on is only open the 1st through the 10th, but the other 2 lakes, East and West Antioch, are open all month, all the time. So, what are techniques that can work well on a silt bottom? Around me in the high plains, we don't have much offshore structure or hard bottom. Jigs never work for me here. Yeah, and they don't ever work in silty bottom, and I never recommend people do them on silty bottom. So anything that stays out of the silt. My number one favorite is, of course, swimming a Ned rig. I'll throw it out, let it sink on the bottom to the bottom, but then I'll lift up my rod and I'll just slowly start reeling and maybe shake my rod a little bit. But I'm making sure that jig stays close to that silt but doesn't get into it. The other one is a drop shot, a little short leader drop shot. So you're figuring maybe the silt's 3, 4, 5, 6 inches long. So I'm going to have a 6 or 7 inch leader and have a drop shot on there. And I'm going to flip it around and drag it through that silt. And the sinker itself will kick up that silt. And that tends to attract the bass. They want to come over and see what's kicking up the silt. And then they see your bait sitting above it. That's another good one. So, bro, have you been able to check out any of the new Discovery Channel episodes? I'd love to hear your thoughts, good or bad. I'll give them to you, bro. I've only seen part of one, just because I don't watch TV much. It has nothing to do with anything with you, but it's just I don't watch TV. I pick up football games and stuff like that during football season, but that's about it. So I'll make it a point to sit down and see if I can find it on YouTube TV and watch it for sure. So it's gonna drive my wife nuts, because really the only time I ever watch TV is before we go to bed at night, and she's usually watching her stupid British sitcoms. So, let's see, Bruce Dominic Drumming. I've been ordering tons of fishing gear because I'm trying to use something other than a purple and white. I don't know what a K&E is. I've been using the same lure for years, dude. I get into that rut. Like I said, the last 4 months I've been throwing jigs, and I fish 3 or 4 days, 5 days a week. And I can't stop fishing jigs. I probably spent $200 the last 3 months on Picasso tungsten jigs. So, yeah, I feel you, dude. The best thing to do is leave your favorite stuff at home and take the other stuff that you want to try out and you want to learn. So, are you a farmer or into farming? No, I'm a gardener who's into gardening. I love vegetable gardens. So in the early 80s, during the Carter recession, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but there were 7 kids still left in the house. I have 7 brothers and sisters. My older brother's brother was already out of the house, but we weren't dirt poor, but we were hurting. And so my dad grew up, was born during the Depression, or just after the Depression. I think it was before during the Depression. And so he grew up knowing how to garden and stuff like that. So he started planting a garden, and I learned from him, and we worked together as I got it to be a teenager, and I just fell in love with it. So I still do it. And it's a skill I want my kids to know, just in case they ever need to grow their own food. I want to make sure that they know how to do it. They may hate the work out there and they begrudgingly go out and help me, but one day they were like, I'm glad my dad taught me that, because I'm the same way. I'm glad my dad taught me that. So Marty Pollock says, JJ says hi. Tell JJ I love him, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. So JJ is the owner of JJ's Magic. Marty Pollock is actually JJ's son, and so JJ's Magic is my oldest sponsor, and I love him to death. So shout out to JJ's Magic, and I still use his stuff all the time. I don't give him near as much love as I think I ought to. So, let's see. John Bird, what's going on? James Larry, how you doing, man? Justin Perry, I got Denny at On the Water Innovations building me a trailer with your exact layout, only black with red underglow. That's awesome, man. I love my trailer. I love it. I got to grease my hubs. I don't know how many thousands of miles on it since I picked it up. So it's time to grease them. I heard a little bit of a squeak the other day as I had my windows rolled down. I was like, yep, time to grease them. So, will bass still bite your bait if there's grass or moss all over the bait? Not if it's all over the bait, no. Or will they swim away? Just curious. I don't think they'll swim away. I just don't think they'll bite it. If there's a little bit of grass on it, I've never had an issue with them biting it. But yeah, if it's covered up with especially that nasty filamentous algae, they stay away from it. That stinky grass, as I call it. You bring it up and it smells horrible. Every time I get into that, I get away from it because I don't ever do that good in it. This spring sight fishing was real easy, looking for beds because out to 8 feet deep, it was all that nasty filamentous algae, and the bass would literally go up, make their beds and start spawning. And within 24 hours of them leaving their beds, that bed was disappeared again. So if you saw a bed, knew there was a fish on it. So, Eddie Mashburn, hey Gene, what type of line and what pound test for light Texas rigs, jerk bait, small spinner baits? So I'm going to throw Seaguar Abrase X, 12-pound test for a light Texas rig, and for a jerk bait. Jerk bait, I like to throw it on 10-pound, but 12 will work just fine. It just won't go as deep. And then small spinner baits, yeah, all 12-pound test on a medium fast or a medium heavy rod. But I like, if it's a small Texas rig with a light jig or with a light hook, I'm going to throw it on a medium fast rod. Just easier to cast for sure, especially like a 1/4 ounce. A lot easier to cast with a medium fast. So, Justin Perry, hey Gene, have you thought about starting a community Discord server? I've talked a little bit about it to my son. Haven't really got too much into it. I really wanted to start streaming from my kayak is what I want to start doing. I can't do it on my home lake because there's zero cell service out there. But I definitely want to look into streaming and just get out and go fishing and stream all day long and do that kind of stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. But just haven't dove into it yet. Just this summer, we're not going to have a whole lot of money for me to dive into buying stuff. And I don't think I have to buy much, maybe one new camera, I think. And we should be all right to do that. So, do you fish a chatterbait in the summer? Yes, I do. I fish it all year long, really. And never really, this year's been the slowest year for a chatterbait for me. I usually do pretty good with it, but this year I haven't done great. I've been able to do better dragging a jig and flipping a jig than anything. So, favorite jig trailer for my Picasso jig, a Zoom Speed Crawl and a Rage Menace are the two things that I throw on it. So, hey, I saw you on 27 Armurchie today. You was in your truck. Yep. I live 27 is 10 minutes that way from my house. So I live right here in Armurchie. Why'd you move away from fishing with a bass boat? Couple of reasons. Personal reasons. I love catching fish out of a kayak. Love it. Other thing I love about it is you can get a lot closer to the bass without spooking them than you can with a bass boat. And I've proven that with Live Scope again and again and again and again and again. Okay, so personally, I love fishing out of a kayak, and I really think that the majority, and I know that the majority of the guys that watch my videos and that are subscribed to me, and that follow me the closest, are those who are bank fishermen or want to, are on a budget. Let's put it that way. They don't fish out of $80,000 bass boats. I don't have a lot of, really serious tournament anglers who get on here and comment all the time. It's all you guys that just want to go out on the weekend. You want to fish for the least amount of money possible. And I want to promote a way to get people off the bank. I fished down the bank for 12 years straight. I know how bad it sucks, but it's fun when it's great fishing. So I want to promote a way for somebody to get off of the bank and go fishing in a boat without breaking the bank, And so that's the whole personal side. The business side is that the kayak side of my business, I did 50-50 boat and kayak for several years. And the kayak side was paying 98% of my paycheck. And so the kayak industry is more willing to help me feed my family and pay my bills when I went full time than the bass boat side. And then this other reason is that that Alumacraft suspended all production of welded boats during COVID and have not been able to revamp it back up since then. So a few decisions that they messed up on, that kind of stuff. And I'm very loyal to Alumacraft. I love my Alumacraft boats, and they saved my career. So I'm giving them ample time to figure out if they're going to do that or not. And then I might go back to big boats, but right now it's kayaks, dude, because that's what's paying the bills. And I love it. Absolutely love it. So that's why. Good question. Let's see. All right, we're going to ask one more question. We're about a minute or 7 minutes over, and I've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive across the state. So Tom Gilbert, I'm a bank fisherman in Missouri. I'm going to rent a yak tomorrow on an old strip pit that's a new lake. Any advice on what kind of patterns, areas to fish? A strip mine or strip pit. Find every point and every rock pile that you can. But the first thing you do is you try to find an area that's got a lot of life. So I'm going to go around that strip pit, cover as much water as I can in a kayak, and look for little ticks on the surface and a lot of baits, birds close to the bank, and just an area. And then if it's got a lot of grass in it or it's got a lot of cover on the shallows, I'm going to head shallow and have a whole lot of fun. Man, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, oh goodness. Last one, Chris, hold on, let me try to pop it up. Says, I like watching your shows on YouTube. You do a great job teaching us what to do. I appreciate it, man. I really do. Well, guys, thanks for joining me. I love y'all. It's been awesome. I'm going to go cut trees tomorrow all day long, sweat my butt off. I almost said balls. But anyway, so like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.